This three-part series launches the 2025 Blades of Valor Tour at Phoenix PD's Air Support Unit.
We are bigger than I envisioned us being. We are more relevant than I envisioned us being. But I'm very proud of the pilots that we have on both sides, because we don't have good pilots up here. We have the best pilots. We do. And we have the best cops. And we really built something cool. I love the culture, I think, more than I love the equipment.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor magazine. This inaugural three-part series of the Hangar Z Podcast was recorded on location at the Phoenix Police Department's Aviation Unit on Phoenix Deer Valley Airport as part of the 2025 Blades of Valor Road Tour. This year, our journey will take us to 4 agencies across 4 states, showcasing their exceptional work through print, video, and right here on the podcast. Events like this tour wouldn't be possible without incredible support. A special thank you to Airbus and Massif flight suits. Your support made the 2025 Blades of Valor Road Tour a reality. The Phoenix Police Department's Air Support Unit has a unique structure comprising of 2 distinctive details, fixed wing and rotorcraft. We were fortunate to sit down with a representative from each detail to get a comprehensive look at the entire operation. Today's guests are Glenn Elefritz, Chief Pilot for Fixed Wing Operations, and Scott Hopkins, Instructor Pilot for Rotorcraft. As you might guess from this being a 3-part series, you can expect a deep dive into a wide range of topics, including tactical flight officer selection and training, pilot development, the recent addition of a second Pilatus PC-12, and the challenges of recruitment and retention. You'll also hear about the fascinating career paths of both guests. Stay tuned as we explore the Phoenix Air Support Unit's guiding philosophy of culture over technology. For more about our visit to Phoenix PD Air Support, be sure to check out the Brent Bundy articles in the Vertical Valor Abscon edition, and then watch incredible videos by Lloyd Horgan on the Vertical Magazine YouTube channel. Thank you to our sponsors, Metro Aviation, Shotover Systems, and CNC Technologies.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts. The Hangar Z Podcast is the first and only podcast dedicated to promoting and exploring the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation.
Still southbound, skidding to a stop. Stand by here. Looks like you're getting ready to bail. Heads up, guys, bailing. Okay, the guy, he's running through the house, jumping the fence, through the shotgun, through something out. Grabbing the shotgun. Don't go over that fence. Don't go over that fence. Grab the shotgun again. He is armed. Stay there. Hold your position.
Welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast, brought to you by Vertical Helicasts and partnered with Vertical Valor magazine. We're on the 2025 Blades of Valor Tour, sponsored by Airbus. And this is stop 2. We're really happy to be here in Phoenix. We're at Phoenix Deer Valley Airport with Phoenix Police Department Air Support, and we've been treated really good, and we're so far so good. I'm with John Gray today, the creator of the Hangar Z Podcast. John,
sir, good to see you.
It's a good trip so far. Yeah. Very productive, lots of fun, and this will be interesting today to come and join Phoenix PD and learn a little bit about the 2 gentlemen that are joining us and about their unit here and what you do and how you do it. There's some unique stuff that we're going to get into right off the bat. But I'll just introduce our guests. We have Chief Pilot of the Fixed Wing Operations, and that's Glenn. I got to get it right. Elefritz.
There, you nailed it.
Glenn Elefritz.
Perfect.
That's a good name.
Here we go.
I like that.
There you go. Thank you. Yeah, because off mic, he actually got it right the first time. I'm like, nobody gets it.
I did, and it's the German in me.
That's right. That's right. You know the lingo.
Because I'm sensitive to that. And Scott's much easier. Scott Hopkins. Yeah. He's an instructor pilot here at Phoenix PD. Glenn and Scott, welcome to the Hangar Z Podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Both you guys, welcome here to Phoenix Air Support.
Well, thank you. Like I said, good so far. We got some good work done last night with Brent Bundy, former Phoenix PD pilot, and now our photographer and our videographer, Lloyd, the man from the UK, is with us. And Lloyd got some great stuff last night with you guys. So let's start with something unique before we get into your backgrounds, and we're going to because we always do. Before we get into that, Phoenix PD Air Support is somewhat unique, not completely, but somewhat unique in that you have a unit, but within the unit, there are two distinct details, a fixed wing detail and a rotorcraft detail. And although you work together and are connected on many operations, they're separate in many ways. People assigned to that detail are assigned to that detail. And there's, you're not bouncing back and forth day to day like some people do. So I'm fascinated by that. And I think that's how we're going to start. So, Glenn, get us started. You're on the fixed wing operations side. Tell us about that separation of those two details and what your detail is all about, what you do.
Absolutely. I think what happened, and this was before I got here, probably around the 08, 09 timeframe, we started looking at the aircraft that were coming online and the technology involved from the pilot perspective of bringing on twin engine helicopters capable of hoisting people off the mountains, good weather, bad weather, daytime, nighttime. And then we brought in a fixed wing asset in the Pilatus PC-12 where it could do the same thing via surveillances or transport missions, go places, bad weather, good weather, daytime, nighttime. And we started looking at, are we asking too much out of the pilots to stay current and proficient in both of those things?
Right. And
then they had very separate and distinct missions that totally took off. The fixed wing side benefits from 340 days of sunlight, cloud-free, COP work a year. And so that mission really took off, and a lot of details within our department got used to having that fixed wing asset overhead. So the mission was there. The need to keep our pilots proficient probably on one side of the house over the other was there, and that's when we looked at going to and separating the flying side. Everybody on the airplane side of the house started in helicopters, so we don't test for it. We pull from the helicopter TFO or observer position once you have successfully completed that 9 to 12 month block course, and then we bring you over to the airplane side. And really, once your flight training kicks in, that's where you'll kind of go divergent, and you're flying one side of the house over the other. From the flying aspect of the helicopter, you're really good at flying in our airspace and chasing bad guys low and fast. And on the airplane side, you're good at flying high, offset surveillance or transport missions down to minimums into airports with bad weather that you've never even heard of. So once we're looking at two very distinct missions. Okay, let's make our pilots the same way.
Cool. It's smart.
Yeah,
it's smart. It would be way too much to be a helicopter pilot and then tomorrow fly that Pilatus.
Right.
That's a lot to ask.
Yeah, for the type of work that we're doing now, that we have built up to,
yes,
it's a lot. It's a lot, and we're professionals in our own world, pilot to pilot, because we fly two very different things. But it is humbling. Scott and I started the same way, walking through the door in the building. Sure. We started out as helicopter observers, but then your career takes a progression going different directions.
Yeah, and I should add that both of you, although you're an instructor pilot and chief pilot, you're both still TFOs, correct?
That's correct.
And that's unique too. So we'll dig that in a little bit deeper. But for this topic about the two different details, Scott, walk me through the rotorcraft side of that equation.
So like Glenn said, when you come into the building, everybody starts off on the helicopter side for TFO training. The reason for that is we just get the reps. We have a pretty robust TFO training program. It's allotted for 9 months based on our flight time. So you get the reps, you get the basics, you get the concepts, and you start to build that proficiency. And it directly translates to what they do, especially with the newer aircraft. They have a really great sensor package. So you have to become not just a thermographer, but you have to become a sensor operator in the sense that they do a lot of stuff with the color camera or the EO camera. But the concepts are still the same. How you talk on the radio, how you work calls. And outside of the other missions, it's a great platform to start that training on. So once you complete that training, like Glenn said, you're put into a pipeline as to which way you're going. If you stay on the helicopter side, the progression then goes, you go into our flight rotation on our patrol. We're a 24-hour patrol operation, 4 flight crews every single day, and you start working that job as a TFO. When we get to a position where we have an availability for a pilot position or for the training position, we send you out to get your private, your instrument, and your commercial. We outsourced our training several years ago. We used to actually do it in-house. I did my commercial pilot in-house. It's kind of looking back on the benefit of that for me. All my flight time was turbine helicopter time. Right. That doesn't happen in the industry. You go out and you learn to fly in an R-22 or an Instrum. So I learned in an A119 Koala. Yeah. Once you go to flight training, you come back with your private and your instrument and your commercial, and our instructors in-house will now transition you into our aircraft. Primarily our patrol helicopters are the H-125s. So we give you a ground school, and we give you about 25-hour transition course. And when I say 25 hours, I say about approximately, because it goes to a level of proficiency. We're not just going to say at the end of 25 hours that you're good to go. We want to make sure that you're safe and competent to go out there and fly that helicopter. We'll then embed you with a senior pilot who is left seat unit qualified. So if something goes wrong, they can take the controls if need be. But that's not the expectation. The expectation is you're a commercial pilot and you're going to go out and you're going to learn how to do the police job. You build unit flight hours up to about 500 hours. And again, it's to a level of proficiency, at which point we pull you out of the rotation. We embed you with a flight instructor, and we do a PIC prep ride. And we go out and we do everything that you do in the commercial pilot world, everything you do in the unit pilot, and some specific stuff that's unique to law enforcement flying. Then we give you a check ride, and that check ride is 7 to 8 hours long. We do a ground portion, a walk around of the aircraft where you have to explain all the systems. And then it's a day and a night flight for EPs and patrol procedures. So when you get
that's
done
a
with
big
that,
day.
Yeah, it's the only thing I can say personally that's equivalent to that. It would have been my CFI check ride.
Right.
It was a really long check ride. You're pretty wiped by the end of it, but it's a culmination. So once you get that PIC status, we don't like to say you're a permanent member of the unit, but you don't have to progress any further within the unit hierarchy. You can remain as a patrol pilot PIC for the rest of your career if you'd like.
Let me back you up for 1 second. When you said pipeline earlier, does everybody go through what you just described, or is there a fixed wing pipeline that we haven't got to yet, or is that early on where you could go the fixed wing route earlier? Or how does
so we basically look at, and Scott and I will probably both admit this, we still prioritize helicopter flying over airplane flying here. If I'm sitting here with an airplane partner and it's Scotty here and something pops off in the helicopter and they need a helicopter up or another helicopter, Scott's taking one of us and we're jumping in. There's no airplane operation at the time.
Gotcha.
And that's kind of the other benefit of airplane guys going through helicopter TFO first. We treat the helicopter like a marked patrol car. It's always got to be there.
Right.
But the airplane, your flight training starts at, where you start your flight training is where you're gonna go. Same thing. We both outsource all of our primary flight training now to Part 141 schools.
Right.
So helicopter does that side, airplane side does the same thing. You transition into our aircraft, you hour build, and then you go through PIC rides on the airplane. On the airplane side, it's a little bit less dynamic flying, so the hours are lower, but it's still the same thing. It's a long day, daytime, nighttime stuff. And then you do just a local PIC checkout, and then about 200 to 300 hours later, you'll do a transport pilot checkout.
One other thing about that pipeline, is it by the person's choice? Is it by need? Is it by a little bit of both? How does that work?
It's all of those things, I think. Yeah. I was very fortunate. Everybody has to come into the door knowing you're going to helicopters.
Right.
You would have to be open to going to the airplane side, but we're very crew oriented here. And so we look at somebody coming through the door and we pay attention to kind of what they think, what their desires are. Because if they are, and like I was an airplane guy at heart. I would have flown, all the airplane guys will tell you, if you wake up tomorrow a helicopter guy, you're elated. You're still going to have a blast. But for a majority of well, everybody on the airplane side now, they wanted to be there. And if we can facilitate that, great.
Yeah.
We do want somebody who's motivated to be in that kind of, flying. Although we all know the best police work is at a helicopter at 500 feet at night.
Gotcha.
We all believe that. Even all the airplane guys think that.
Admitted by an airplane.
He,
That's right.
he just admitted it in a public forum.
It's on video.
I'll do it. And I have flown regional jets. I've flown Gulfstreams, and I will tell you the best flying is crewing a helicopter.
Absolutely.
And chasing bad guys.
We talked about it in Texas, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where, you just say, this is the best job. It's the best flying job there is, and how Blue Angels have been in the back seat saying, you have the best flying gig in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you look and realize, wow,
Yeah.
we are lucky.
We are.
We're flying a very high-tech machine around, chasing bad guys, and nobody's telling you, no, you have to fly this, I said 270, no, I'm flying whatever I want, within the rules. It's very unique.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yep.
Very cool. That's why this is so interesting. The two details within the unit.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who we know, if there's anything else really out there like that. And most of the agencies that we come across they're mixed. They're helicopter pilots will jump into an airplane, but we have not come across an agency yet who has very split missions. And also, although the
I can't think of one.
San Bernardino County sheriffs have
A dedicated cadre.
Yep.
yeah,
There you go.
And working with San Bernardino guys and Riverside guys and stuff before, and helping them, and we're helping Riverside. They're building out a PC-12 right now. We are starting to see it come online. We've been talked to. We were really the first ones to the market to utilize the PC-12 as a surveillance ISR platform. So it's been humbling and amazing to help all of those agencies and say, look, there's a mission over here for this. The helicopter is very distinct. It says I'm a cop on the side of it. If you want to do airborne law enforcement work and not be seen, there's certainly a market for it.
Yeah.
So it's been amazing to watch it develop into what we've been able to build it just inside our own unit.
Before we move on, I have to know there's obviously a little bit of fun rivalry between the helicopter and the airplane crews.
Absolutely.
Talk about some of the shenanigans that go on between the airplane crews and the helicopter crews.
The reindeer games?
Yeah.
I don't know if the statute of limitations is up on that.
Yeah.
Well,
does the FAA listen to this? They might
probably.
We'll race back to the airport and listen to that.
What would Brent Bundy do? He's beyond what's the funniest thing you saw Brent do as an airplane guy to the helicopter guys?
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 160-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
So Brent was unique because he's both.
Yeah.
He was helicopter side for a very long time, and then we brought him over to the airplane side where he kind of wanted to sunset his career, and we don't do that anymore now. Anyways, everybody
learned not to do that because they had Brent.
Yeah,
there, and you said, "Wow,
Brent was
the
Brent was the exact reason. I think Brent just wanted to get in front of the front of the PC-12 and push buttons, but not go through all the training.
Not that
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's a lot of. I'll tell you what. It's a humbling experience because I went through it, where you have to go tell all of your helicopter people that you've been working with, hey, I'm actually gonna go over here, and you'll catch hell for it. But we always tell, if you're catching flack in this building, we like you.
Yeah.
And it's very healthy competition between the two sides of the house, knowing the missions are different. What's really cool is when we blend it.
Yeah.
And we have had we've had a 2 helicopter and a PC-12 3 aircraft stack over a homicide vehicle where all 5 people in the car were
all
suspects.
doing different segments of that mission, and
they're bailing out, and you're watching a helicopter go with a runner, a helicopter go with the car, and the PC-12 is just hanging back calling all of it. So it's we have to get along, and again, falling back to airplane guys all starting in the helicopter, we know what the helicopter is capable of, so that when we're not capable of it, we'll scream on the radio just like a guy on the ground. Hey, I'll get a helicopter, because we know a helicopter will make it around the backside of a building in seconds, where the airplane will take 3 or 4 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but
we have some unique airspace too with the Class Bravo here. So although Sky Harbor, the tower, the surface area is open to us, there are certain areas of restriction that we can't go into. And when we're following a vehicle and a helicopter, that becomes an issue. If we have the airplane overhead, they're up above the airspace.
Yeah.
Their sensor package is phenomenal. They can look down, they can keep an eye on things until they get to a point where we can come back in and take care of business. Yeah. So that blending, it's almost seamless now.
Yeah.
It's really good. And the other thing is, because of their altitude and their sensor package, they're offset a long distance sometimes.
Yeah.
They get visually on scene before we can get there, and they don't have to be directly overhead to start working a call. And that's hugely important for us. And it helps. The ultimate goal is to get that bad guy in custody and keep the officers on the ground safe. So it's a cool thing when it happens.
Yeah.
The shenanigans come in when you have to help the other side out, and everybody. So, it wasn't for us.
Wouldn't have got him.
Yeah, we have a new
new
TFO right now that's just completing training, and he dropped paper for that side to transfer over.
Oh boy!
And it's kind of like that scene in was it Goodfellas where, you know, the mob boss is like, "Here, I'll give you this money, but now I got to turn my back on you."
Yeah.
So it's like, you're dead to us.
And, you know, the funny part is, the last couple of pics that we've taken from the helicopter side or the airplane side, we're very quiet about it. We just hang back and watch somebody go through training, and the helicopter side has no idea. We're going to take that guy right there. And then when they're like, "Wait, who's going over there?" Yeah, it is.
And it's like, who are we losing? And most of the time, we have some really talented people here, and we have some really talented people that are coming out of the training program. And it's nice for us to look at it and go, if somebody goes over there, we look at it as a loss to our side.
Yeah.
So, and that's a testament to the type of people that we're bringing into the building that we're producing. So
that does.
From a chief pilot perspective, and I think my counterpart Dan on the helicopter side would say this, is if we look at you and you wouldn't be good for the helicopter side, we're certainly not going to take you to the airplane side. And I wouldn't want anybody on the airplane side that the helicopter side, you know, and vice versa. We look at it at 4 seats. There's two pilot seats on the airplane helicopter side, 2 observer seats on the airplane helicopter side. If you cannot perform to the level of any of those 4 seats, we don't want you in the unit.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of how we keep it as tight as we keep it in this building.
And as it should be.
Yeah.
You know.
What I love is you guys talk about being complementary programs, and you guys work so well together.
Oh, yeah.
We joke about the competition on the ground, but when it comes down to business, like you're talking about that incident with the homicide suspect, you guys are very well integrated. You know, I love anytime we can create a situation where you've got, you know, the airplane, the helicopter, and the drone operations all complementing each other and working for the greater good of what's going on the ground. I love what you guys are doing. That's cool.
Yeah, it's very layered. We've become, you know, very good at it, and we're, you know, to the point now where Scotty's on MVGs and wants to know which house we're talking about. We'll just shoot a laser beam at the house. That's that one right there. You know, and he's right. The ability to acquire bad guys from the airplane, if we're just in the middle of the city and you're looking at 10, 15, 20 miles and we can get eyes on something, that's going to bring them in. And we know once they're overhead, nobody's we're good.
Yeah. Incredible.
Yeah.
Phoenix is so uniquely well suited for that as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, there are some trees, but, you know, I think of Ontario, and Ontario's got a lot of trees that line the streets. So from a distance, it's hard. Even if, you know, if you can get visual on the target with your camera, usually it's obstructed by trees.
Right.
But you guys, you know, there's not a lot of trees, so that's got to help a ton, I would imagine.
You play the angles, especially with the camera system. But the other thing is, we don't have a lot of, building canyons.
Right.
So we have an uptown and a downtown, and those have their own unique challenges based on their locations. But for the most part, we're wide open.
That's cool.
A lot of residential areas, a lot of single-story buildings. So if we play the angles right, even in the helicopter at our altitudes, as we've adjusted over the years with new technology, we can get eyes on from quite a distance. So, and that's helping improving our effectiveness.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah,
no doubt. Kind of backing up to something else I wanted to check on with you. When people are coming through this door and you bring them in as that tactical flight officer, before they get into the pipelines and whichever it may be, how many are they required to have any aviation? And if so, what is it?
No, so that's something we changed. When I first came into the building, you had to have a airplane single engine land private pilot or a helicopter private pilot, and that was pretty rare because of the expense. I think we've had one guy in the unit history that did that on his own, but you had to have that within a year being assigned to the unit, and it was at your own expense. Prior to that, I think they even required a commercial pilot license way back in the day. We since changed that, and it was right about the time that I got my private pilot in the airplane. I started on my own, working with a civilian instructor, and then I finished it inside the unit in a department aircraft. I was the first one to get that in the department aircraft. But then as we started looking at outsourcing and what our budgets were for that, we're like, it's not a requirement that you have aviation background. In fact, it's almost to the point where we'd rather not. We're more concerned. We don't hire pilots here. We hire tactical flight officers. So we're more concerned about your ability to do the police job as opposed to doing the pilot job. Every one of us that's up here, and I'm sure if you go to any other agencies, they'll tell you, they're like, yeah, there's part of me that's like, I can't believe they let me do this. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
Did they know?
You hear it all the time.
Yeah, and it's the whole.
I've said that.
You can teach, you can teach a monkey to fly, right? Well, we're all perfect examples of that. It's a lot harder to teach the police job. The experience that comes with the police work, you can't duplicate that on the civilian side.
Right.
Even if you go through the academy and FTO, it's still not enough.
Yeah.
You got to have some really good experience and foundation in police work to do the job. So that's what we look for. If you have that pilot background, we'll start caring about that once you're successful in the TFO program. You got to make that. You got to earn those TFO wings before we even ever look at you as a pilot.
Yeah. So there's people that might apply and say, hey, I'm a commercial airplane, I'm a commercial fixed wing pilot. Yep. And you look at that and say, well, that's nice. But
we're going to talk to you about being a cop.
Yes. Yeah. You want to talk about what did you do tactically lately, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And if they had that commercial, that's going to be beneficial later for both pipelines, but that is not the priority.
That's right.
The priority is being a good cop, being able to apply it to a tactical flight officer position, and then we will train you to be the pilot, whichever unit or detail you go to.
And I would say having somebody come up here, we get that all the time. There's plenty of people out there that have come out of the military or their second careers and they have an aviation background, and they're like, this just seems like a natural fit. And they don't make it through the process.
I can vouch for that too.
Some of them don't even make it in the door. And the few that we've had have been exceptional in that regard. But it's definitely not the norm.
Yeah.
So
I was only a few years behind Scotty with getting the PPL on the side. When I first started my PPL, it was still, you had to get it done out of pocket before you came up here. I'd only been on the department a year or two, I think, when I started doing it, but it was nice when this unit got out of the business of doing primary flight training and handed it over to professionals.
Right.
That's all they do.
Yep.
And then what we could do is send our students to dedicated flight schools that we vetted. We went under contract with them. On the helicopter side, they went into a contract with a dedicated flight school. I wrote the contract for dedicated airplane school, but what you got was trustworthy schools that you knew were going to get your students through the primary flight training, and they were going to come back standardized.
Right.
We're very standardized heavy here now, which helps us with the other part you're talking about, and that's the culture. And that is where I would put more emphasis on your ability to be a police officer. Scott does too, because he cadres with training TFOs. More emphasis on your ability to be a police officer and your ability to fit into our culture.
Yes.
In airborne law enforcement, you guys have been around it, you know that if you're doing dangerous stuff, you want your closest friends who are trained as well as you doing it with you. So that's that culture side of it where we really look at, and that's great that you got your commercial license, but we're getting that.
Yeah.
We're getting commercial people back, and they're going through the same schools that we all did. They learn the same way, same checklist, same flows, all of that stuff. And so it's so much easier and less time on our aircraft and our mechanics and stuff if we can send them out, bring them back, and then teach them the machine.
Yeah.
When I came through and I did my commercial, I did it in-house, like I was saying. We had some phenomenal flight instructors, guys that could do things with helicopters that were just amazing. But you went out and you did your hour and a half of flight training. Then you came in and you got on the computer with King Schools or one of the other, self-study programs, and you self-studied the ground portion. So you didn't get a standardized ground. If you had questions, you could go ask the instructors, but it wasn't a formalized ground school. I actually had the ability, after I got my commercial, they sent me back to get my instrument at a flight school. And that was the first time I had ever been through a structured flight training program with a ground school. And I was lucky it was a one-on-one type of thing, but it was still a classroom thing. It was very organized. And I saw the benefit of it. The airplane guys get it from day one. And our guys now, when they outsource, they get it too. Right. But I feel like I probably would have been better prepared. I'm not saying that I wasn't prepared, but I think I would have been better prepared, more efficient when I went through it. And I think that's something that we've evolved in, and it was a good thing for the unit.
Yeah. It's funny, we were talking about this, how the priority about police work, which should be obvious, but it's not obvious to every unit in the country. You guys know that from being around too. Last night, we met one of your newer TFOs. He's about to go to pilot training, Chris. Right. And Chris and I talked at length, John, and the three of us, we talked about at length his SWAT experience. Oh, yeah. And when he got done, I said, he's been here maybe a year. Is that about right? Yeah. I said,
pretty close.
In that year, I'll bet you have been over many, many things where all that SWAT experience has benefited you greatly, hasn't it? With canine searches and SWAT canine. And he just smiled with a big grin and said, "Oh my gosh, it was so helpful." Yeah. So there you go. It's and having that background is going to benefit this unit a lot with doing the job. Sure. And whether he even eventually, hopefully, he makes it through pilot training. He's piloting and TFOing, but that experience is going to be so valuable to you guys and for your customers.
Yeah, and we have a pretty wide variety of backgrounds in law enforcement that end up coming up here, but the guys that are coming out of tactical units have a slight edge over that because that's one of our customers that we support outside of patrol. We get a lot of questions from potential applicants like, where should I focus my career to be successful coming up here? And a lot of them think that they have to go SWAT. And we tell them, a lot of our guys are actually coming out of patrol. Yeah. Guys who are out there actively doing what we support the most.
That's all I ever did. Yeah. I was always in a patrol car.
It is the best.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, yeah. Specialized units, great. Yep. But the fact is that 90% of your calls you're going to respond to are supporting patrol. Yeah. And if you know patrol inside out, you're going to excel. Yeah. You're going to be able to. You're going to say things and do things, and you're going to be able to think a step ahead for that patrol officer. No matter how experienced or inexperienced they are, you're thinking ahead for that.
Thank you to our sponsor, CNC Technologies. CNC Technologies, serving law enforcement, government, and military markets with tailored mission solutions, system training, and live 24/7 support with CNC.live platform. Explore more at cnctechnologies.com.
I think this conversation right here, we're very well versed on it now, but Scott and I, and we've, the upper leaders within the building have to use that conversation when we always get asked the question, why not civilian pilots?
Oh yeah.
And you have to bring up, look, this is why you need good police officers who basically step into a patrol car at 500 feet. Your civilian pilot with no law enforcement background wouldn't understand the dynamic, the culture, the type of flying, that we do. Not to mention that a lot of civilian pilots, younger, are just transitioning through to something bigger and better.
Sure.
Yeah, so you'll have evolving door of training.
Right. You'll have them for a little bit and they'll say bye. Yeah, bye. They're off to something bigger and better, right?
For me, it's the safety of the officers on the ground is paramount.
Of course.
The instinct that you get from reading a situation as a police officer, again, you can't duplicate that. You can't watch a video. You can't read a book and understand that until you've lived it on that side. So our TFOs, because they're police officers, their instincts are already working ahead of the call. They can see potential hazards. and the goal is to make sure, even if I hate when bad guys get away, but I hate it worse when officers get injured or worse.
Right.
That to me is
got to be the priority.
Yeah. You want to talk about healthy competition? We're so patrol heavy here, or where you were on this department. That's probably where the bigger competition is.
Sure.
Oh, where'd you patrol?
Yep.
And so it's cool to see that we bring that into the building. Yeah, we bring that into the building because it's very competitive. Like, what kind of cop are you?
Yeah. What'd you do?
So what'd you do?
And for when we started out, it was all about South Zone.
Yeah.
So there was 6 precincts at the time. In the 3 South Zone precincts are where it was. If you wanted to get to the Tactical Support Bureau,
you were down there.
Better work in that area.
Yep. Right.
And if you didn't get assigned there out of the academy, fight,
and get over there.
Do whatever you got to do, whoever
Save
you
your
got to
reputation.
bribe, whatever you get to South Zone. Yeah. I don't know if that's, I've been out of the patrol world now for well over 2 decades. So I don't know if it's still quite the same way, but
I think with the precinct you were at and the precinct I was at, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But it's one of those, you do not want to walk into this bureau or this building having not worked down there.
Yeah. There's I can think of people right now that we still joke, they never work south of the 10 freeway.
Right.
And funny that it's the 10 freeway here too.
Yep.
It is. They never work south of the 10 freeway.
Something about that interstate driving across the country.
Yeah. You got to figure that out to do it. So John, he worked both sides of the 10 freeway where he was in Ontario.
Yep.
Yeah. The 10 freeway went right through my precinct, but even then the south side of it was was even worse.
Funny.
Yep.
Hundreds of miles apart, but
kind of the same, right?
But that rivalry, that's real.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Before we move out of this segment, Glenn, I'll go to you first. Tell us about in your detail in the fixed wing operations side of things. Aircraft number, personnel, mission profiles, mission equipment. Kind of a nutshell consensus of our description of what you got there.
So we're about to pick up number 7 on the squad, and that squad is sergeant, chief pilot. They each individually report to the unit lieutenant, and then we'll have 5 officers under that. So we'll go to 7. We are we just got our second Pilatus PC-12 Spectre in December, so only talking 3-4 months old, which is we're very humbled at that because we used to be a Cessna and Pilatus operation, and the fact that we're working 2 of those now, where our pilots, because they had been able to do it for the longest time on the helicopter side, where you could step out of one aircraft and step out of the next next aircraft, and it was the same aircraft. One aircraft could leave a call, and the next one would show up providing the same level of service. And we didn't have that. We haven't had that until December of 2024, and we'll send guys off to the Part 141 school. They'll come back, and we'll start in as little as 250 hours. They'll go into the Pilatus PC-12.
Nice.
So they are low time pilots, but then they are the same thing on the helicopter side, but they're very well trained. The airplane side is, I have to battle this as the chief pilot. The airplane side, manpower, how many bodies you have is always predicated off the helicopter side because we triage that first. That has to be completely staffed, and we have to look at training outlooks on the helicopter side for years before we can ever even eyeball can we pluck an airplane pilot. So 7 is the most. It's the most I think that we've ever had. Certainly 2 aircraft, 2 PC-12s is as good as I think we're probably going to get for a very long time. But that's plenty. For now, it'll just be us building up to probably trying to get chief pilot, sergeant, 8 bodies. Yep. We'd like to go to 10. So
and once again, I don't want to be repetitive, but those 7 are all trained for both jobs. They can pilot or they can TFO any day of the week.
That's right. So on the airplane side, everybody has to be able to fly the airplane, TFO the airplane, TFO the helicopter.
And it's single pilot or dual pilot?
It's so local surveillance missions are single pilot, single TFO. Every transport mission is dual PC-12
Makes
pilots
sense.
because we'll fly. We fly all over the country, and we'll fly. With the weather, if the airliners can't get in, we won't go. But if you can get in, we're going.
Yeah. Mission profiles. You mentioned a couple times now surveillance and transportation. Anything else that's in there that we're missing?
Yeah, we're working. So we are working with networking to federal assets to help them as a transport cargo ship of bodies and cargo within the state or surrounding states. In theory, that's why we got the PC-12 with that cargo door, that we can load that up. And we're just now starting to work with other assets where we can do a 4-man team, a pallet, and we can have them to the borders of surrounding states anywhere within 45 minutes to an hour.
Cool.
Yeah. So those three things, the vast majority of it is the high altitude surveillance and transports. But for us to be able to start moving, personnel and equipment is huge for us.
Mission equipment. What's the gimbal on that?
Yep. So both of the PC-12s are using the FLIR 380X 16-inch camera. The cameras that we use on that are HD EO for daytime. We do a low light, which is a really good picture, but the zoom on it, because of the altitudes we fly at, we can't get in as close on the suspect as we want to. And then our bread and butter is infrared, and that camera's so good. And even the cameras on the new helicopters, the temperature disparities are so low on it that we can use our infrared cameras even during the summertime, because now the body's a cold spot.
Right.
In this city.
Yeah, we are in Phoenix.
Yeah, we are. We can see somebody hiding because they're a cold spot now.
Yeah.
All sorts of, laser illuminators. So if our ground guys want to work on nods and have something illuminated, laser illuminator, it looks like a searchlight coming out of the helicopter, all the way down to a laser pointer. And I could stick it on somebody's, make it sparkle, and then our SWAT guys can be like, well, there's your target right there.
And mapping?
Mapping we're split. So we're aero computer on our older PC-12 NG. We switched over to shot over on the new one, and we love it. I mean, the overlay feature on that is so good that when we downlink, so we send out our video out of the airplane, and when we downlink an overlay, because even with 5 to 10 mile offsets, the overlay is so good that our ground guys can see what street bad guy's going down to, even if he's in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're having
That's
a lot
a
of
big deal.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge deal for us. We were not in the older plane. We were not downlinking in overlay, and when we downlink and our tactical units start to come together, and the walls are closing in, and they start getting closer to apprehension, we start to get off the radio. Yeah. Because you can see our video, you can make your decisions. You guys take the air, formulate the plan. We're just an overhead look. We downlink out of both aircraft via microwave to a fixed position on top of our city hall, which disperses into our internet system. So anybody with permission, even all the way down to a field sergeant in a patrol car, can see what the airplane is seeing
on their phones and on their laptops, or what?
Yeah. So via a program called Drone Sense, if they looked at a tiled drone feed, we're one of those feeds now, and you can just bring it up, and then now all of a sudden you're just watching what comes out of the aircraft. We are transitioning on the new plane over to a mesh style system, where we are basically going to become almost like a Wi-Fi router of radio nodes, that we are going to create this sphere of communicating bidirectional to our ground personnel, so that we do get a fair number of missions that start in the city, and then bad guy tries to run. And what happens is we get out of line of sight with our downlink or radio systems here. But with this new system that we're going to, everybody follows the plane, everybody can communicate, everybody can send stuff up to the airplane, everybody can send stuff down. And that's a byproduct of working with, military level partnerships, where when we sat down and looked at designing this new airplane, we're like, load it up with as much technology as you can, send it. We want to future-proof the hell out of this thing, so that, even 5 years from now, we're not asking for more money on stuff to add to the airplane.
One last thing about the airplane, what we're talking about, the suite, the tactical flight officer suite in the Pilatus, is it multi-monitors?
It is. It is. If on the older plane, we was a dual monitor. Top monitor is the camera. Bottom monitor is the map. The top monitor can do like an overlay. If we're in the helicopter, you'll see us flip back and forth as a TFO. I'm looking at the video, I'm looking at the map, or I'm looking at both. In the plane, it's very separate, because we just do an eye shift where we're like, I'm looking at the video, or the video, where am I at, sort of thing. On the new plane, we took that on the TFO console on the left side, and we replicated it over to the right side, so that we could take up a second observer if we wanted to. Cool. We are running into where we got to chase a bad guy. We need to talk to all of our tactical units, but then we also need to talk to a JOC or a TOC or whoever. So to have a second person who's watching all of that and talking on a different radio frequency, with their own radio control heads is paramount. It's huge.
Right.
We love it.
And what about up front for the pilot? Does the pilot have a small monitor that they can see any of that?
So the Swiss are amazing. So what they did was, they wired it to where one of the multifunction displays up there can either be an instrumentation of the aircraft, or I can turn it right over to what the camera's seeing. That's
really
so cool. We can take we can take a laptop up there or a cell phone up there, and we can Wi-Fi into what we're seeing in the back. But really, when it's eye level with your instruments, it's a lot less of the pilot looking down and losing situational awareness. And that's busy airspace. Yeah. We want to be able to be as eyes up as we can for our camera operator, and then start looking at other aircraft in the airspace.
The quality of actionable intelligence that you guys produce is mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah.
I think of these operators on the ground. Essentially, you can have a tactics team with an iPhone or an iPad laced to someone's back.
That's right.
And their team leader could be looking at that stuff, making decisions without you even saying anything.
That's right.
Which is wild. I think about that, for me, if I were in those shoes, I'm like, holy cow, that is insane.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The amount of stuff, and they literally have, like you said, like a tablet or plate with, they can pull it down and they can look at that feed, or they can look at ATAC or any of those other the systems. And if it increases their operational effectiveness, then it's a win.
Yes. We're able to, as this mesh system comes online, and that's the way to beam up to the aircraft, we can see ATAC. So on our overlay, we can see where good guy, bad guy is. If we start working into a big urban environment, we're like, where are all the good guys at? Well, with ATAC, and we can do an overlay where we're seeing it on the camera.
Amazing.
Okay, that's a good guy. We got you. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, not bad for starting out in the Cessnas with binoculars.
Yeah. How about that?
Compared to where we came from, and I'm sure where you guys started at, and you're like, man, paper map and a pair of binoculars if you were lucky.
That's right. And now you look at it. The overlay is such a huge thing for the people that are on the ground receiving that information. Whereas before, you kind of had to have another cop or another person from air support there at the command post saying, this is Figueroa.
Yeah, this is what you're looking at.
This is Slauson Avenue.
Yeah.
And now you don't need that person there.
Right.
You just beam it down there, and unless the person looking at that screen doesn't know streets, you're giving them so much information.
Yeah,
that is fantastic.
It's really cool to see them almost start flying the camera from the ground. Hey, shift over 2 properties.
Yeah.
We want to look. Look at that. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Tell me what you want.
Yeah.
And because they can see it on the ground, we can give them so much better customer service.
Yeah.
We're not playing a guessing game. We know exactly what you want to look at. If you want something different based off of what you're seeing on the ground, tell us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
We love it.
Scott, let's do the rotorcraft side. Same thing, aircraft personnel, mission profiles, mission equipment.
So on the aircraft, our primary patrol sport helicopter is the H-125. Currently, we have 6 of those. We just turned over our fleet, so we have 5 brand new H-125s. The nice thing about those is we got to deal with the design on that and the finishing and completion of those. So they're all set up exactly the same way. So we have consistency. When I first got in the unit, we actually took possession of the first B3 from, back then it was American Eurocopter. Mm-hmm. In fact, there's a picture of it sitting on the wall behind you.
Yeah.
After we renumbered it, that we had to kind of do an aftermarket thing and say, hey, how do we fit this aircraft into a law enforcement role? After that, we started saying, hey, when we get new aircraft, let's try and standardize things. And that's what we did on these brand new H-125s. They're all standardized. So they're running MX-10s. We have almost all of them have aero computers. We do have one with a shot over system that we are working through and see if that's the direction we want to go. We still have one of our previous B3s, one of the 2B1 dual hydraulic models. It's primarily a training helicopter and a fill-in helicopter for when maintenance needs to pull another one offline and we need to insert one of those into the patrol mission. That's running a FLIR 8500 it actually has a legacy metamap system in it. And Brent actually set that one up, but that's the last metamap system. And
so those guys are using Google Maps.
So, we actually, we looked at that. We have iPads that were donated to the air support unit, and we were looking into, can we transition to a tablet system? Well, the problem is a lot of times you're flying outside of the umbrella or above the umbrella of the data system out there. And Google Maps is not stored natively on your device. So the refresh rate just wasn't there. It wasn't giving it to us. Yep. Not to mention Google Maps and other mapping systems are designed for cars or people walking. The IFR, I follow road. We don't do that.
Right.
Whereas the crow flies. So that really didn't work out as well. But the MetaMap system, and if we talk about the training part down the road, we'll tell you why the MetaMap system is still effective for us to a degree. But that's our legacy ship. Obviously, there's a disparity in the technology between the legacy ship and our new ships. The kids out there flying today are like, oh, we want the new greatest, if they get the old
Give me
one,
class. Yeah.
And it's funny if they get assigned the older helicopter and they're kind of like, okay, I got to do it old school today. Yeah. Whereas I look at it and go, when I started, it wasn't in there.
Right.
You didn't have a MetaMap. You
listen here, kid.
Yeah.
Oh, God, man.
Look at this
Guys-
map book I had. Look at the
Guys-
pages; they're all torn.
I don't know when it happened, but I woke up one day and I was the old guy in the building.
I
I don't
remember
know
that
when
day.
that happened. It's crazy, and I think I can finally say back in the day and not catch hell for it.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about you too, Scott.
I know. See,
Not me.
Thank you to our sponsor, Shotover. Shotover Systems is the leading developer and manufacturer of high-performance gyro-stabilized cameras with advanced real-time AR mapping and mission management, all backed by unparalleled custom training and support. Now offering the M2 multi-sensor system, sole 6-axis EO/IR platform with 4K Ultra HD color and infrared technology. Ideal for law enforcement and defense. Offered with real-time AR overlays to quickly identify streets, weather, and traffic. Automated license plate recognition, 24-megapixel digital photographs, and automated steering and tracking.
That's our patrol helicopters. Yeah. We do have a rescue component. So we have an A109E Power that's equipped with a Breeze Eastern hoist that its primary mission is the rescue side of the house. So we work with our Phoenix Fire Department partners. We have a Phoenix Fire Department crew chief. We actually have several of them that ride in the back, and they're the hoist operators. And they're our communications link with the firefighter technical rescue team guys when we're doing mountain rescues. So that's used for that. The H-125s are the backup ships for that. So if the 109 is down for maintenance or for whatever else is going on, and we can get to a mountain landing zone, we can take the H-125s in there and still help out and provide that level of service. So those are our helicopter assets as far as that goes. As far as the personnel, we have a helicopter chief pilot. So that's Glenn's counterpart, Dan Latham.
It's Dan. We met Dan last night.
Yep. Dan and I came on the unit fairly close to each other within, I think he came up a couple months after me. So he's got a lot of experience. Very smart guy. Very good pilot. We have a maintenance pilot whose primary job is to do the maintenance flights. He's also an instructor pilot, as is Dan. Dan, as the chief pilot, is actually also the chief flight instructor for the helicopter side. We have, I think it's 14 PICs, four of which are actually instructor pilots as well, myself included. 7 TFOs, not including the TFOs that are in the building from another agency that we're helping train, and new trainees that are coming up. So
when you say 7 TFOs, those are 7 TFOs that have not moved through their structured pilot training yet.
Correct.
But they all will.
They're going to.
They're going to.
Okay.
With the exception of the outside agency
Right,
guys,
right.
we'll release
That's
them
their
back
own
to their
thing.
agency
Yeah.
and they'll do what they do. But yeah, these are either in some form of training, of TFO training, or they've completed their TFO training and they're waiting on that flight training spot. And then we'll ship them out and say goodbye to them for 7 to 9 months.
Right.
And you have to pass all of that. We don't.
Yeah.
If you get to flight school and it's not for you, we're limited on bodies. We won't keep you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
It takes a long time to get to that PIC level. When I came up, historically, it was about a 5-year period before you actually got your pilot in command rating. It's not saying that it's gotten a lot faster now, because we still have some pretty in-depth training that we do. and some pretty stringent requirements for competency in that role. But it's a lot more streamlined now, especially now that you don't have to do the airplane stuff as well.
Right.
So yeah, these guys are waiting to go, or they're in the TFO process. So
when you say 5 years, 5 years as the day you come in through the door as a TFO to the day you're PIC qualified?
Correct. Okay. Yeah. So that was historically. So it can be a little bit faster than that now because of the streamlining process, or because of budgetary issues, or how we actually got to a point which was pretty unique in our unit where we had all of our helicopter side were pilots. We had a kind of a temporary hiring freeze, and we had the ability to get guys moved along the pilot pipeline. So not just pilot and commands, but we actually had rescue pilots as well. So we were fairly well staffed. We didn't have maybe one guy that came in as a TFO trainee that was still waiting to go. But that was unique. That I don't think that had happened in the history of our unit, or if it did, it happened so long ago that nobody remembers it.
Right.
So.
It's tough. Like you said, it takes so long to get somebody up to speed in one component. To have everybody up to speed.
It was an incredible thing for us, and it was we knew we had a good thing, and we were going to enjoy it while it lasted, because it doesn't last. People retire, people move on.
Right.
But we tell people when they want to come up here and they start poking around, we're like, hey, this is a destination. You have to understand the commitment it takes, not just to get here, but to stay here and to have a long-term career here. I tell guys all the time, hey, if you've got another itch you want to scratch on the department, you want to go be canine, you want to be a detective, you want to be SWAT, go scratch the itch and then come back to us when you're done.
Because it takes dedication once you're here to stay here.
And the other side of that is we constantly have to educate the chiefs and the commanders to say, if they're not aware of what our timeline is, this is why we need bodies ahead of time. We can't do
a 1-for-1.
Yeah, a 1-for-1 is detrimental to us. We need to be, thinking ahead and taking bodies in anticipation of vacancies. That's hard to do right now.
You're just talking about common sense now. Come on, that doesn't
happen. Foresight.
Yeah. I'm almost off double secret probation. So after my retirement's done,
Let's re-interview Scott after that.
That's when you can. I have a whole lot of other things that
We'll
seen.
just say it for you. John and I can say whatever we want. Foresight and common sense, two superpowers, in law enforcement, and that's universal.
And it's hard now with the ability to get and retain good police officers out there. We're down, I think the latest number I saw was like over 650 officers in the city of Phoenix compared to where we should be.
And it should be what?
I think we should be over 3,000 officers.
And we're just over, we're right at 2,200.
Yeah.
Wow.
There are less police officers on than when Scott and I got on.
Yeah.
And the city's only gotten bigger.
Yeah, and I think everybody in law enforcement can point right to when that started.
Sure they can. Sure they can.
Everybody knows.
With their eyes
there's no
closed.
secret. And it's hard to do that. So your candidate pool out there is shrinking. And where we used to get, 20, 30, 40 people coming up to our orientations, the last orientation we got 4.
Yeah.
And that is... So we're really working on the recruitment side of it because we need to increase our candidate pool so that way our draft class is competent, and the guys they're coming up have the best chance of being successful.
Right.
It's time for your Heli Life giveaway buzzword. Listen up and remember this word because you'll need it to enter for a chance to win exclusive Heli Life gear. Ready? This episode's buzzword is mission. Visit contest.verticalhelicasts.com to enter the buzzword.
I don't know about you, but everything that Glenn and Scott have described up to this point, if you were even thinking about becoming a cop and you're even thinking about getting into aviation, this is where you'd want to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think it's a great recruiting tool from everything you said in this first hour about, you don't have to go out there and do all this flying and have the other. No, you can come here, go do a good job as a police officer, work hard, learn, but then we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
That's not the norm.
Nope.
Most people are spending a lot of money on their own, and I feel guilty because I come from a place that's the same, and people start talking about, oh my God, it's so expensive to get a rating, and I just walk out of the room because I don't want to be in that conversation.
I've got a son in airline flight school right now, and he just borrowed 6 figures to go get the ratings that the city of Phoenix has helped Scott and I get.
Yeah, I don't even want to think of the amount of money in today's dollars that all of my training that the city has given me and the citizens have given me. When I went back for my instrument rating, I had about 3,000 flight hours at that point. My instructor was still working up to that 1,000-hour, magic number, so she could go off and get in the industry. Right. And I remember going in there and being like, I just got to be humble here. Yeah, I just got to be humble because these guys
it's almost awkward.
Yeah, and luckily she was a great professional, and I told her, I said, I need you to treat me like you treat anybody else walking through the door. Don't look at my logbook because we're going to go out there and do attitude instrument flying, and I'm going to be all over the place.
And you don't dare tell your instructor how much you're making as a Phoenix
police officer. No, God, no.
Well, it's interesting, though. We talked about this in the past. The sacrifices and the costs for you to go to flight school were different than the kid next to you. Oh, yeah. The sacrifices and costs for you to go were paid in the street, and the things you did there. So some of these folks get upset that you didn't spend the amount of money that they did, but like, well, you didn't sacrifice what I did to do the same thing.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
So
one of the things we don't like hearing up here from friends on the department is, oh, you're lucky you're at the air unit. Oh, yeah, right. Go take an FAA check ride. Luck won't get you anywhere.
Go take the writtens. Go take the practicals, and then go take the biannuals. And they have no idea that any of that even exists.
Right.
And going back to what you just said, John, I mean, you've heard this too, and I know you guys have, where you get somebody from the military, and they're in aviation, and they come up to you at a static and go, "Oh man, I love Phoenix. So you're going to hire me to be a helicopter pilot?" You said, "Well, not exactly. No. You got to come on and you got to do some time in the street." And they go, "Oh, I don't want to do that.
Right.
That's dangerous.
Right.
And they were a Cobra pilot. They're telling you that police work's dangerous.
Right. Yeah.
And so they don't apply. Right. They will not apply because they've got to do their time. Right. And they think, well, how can that be? Yeah. I'm a Huey pilot. I'm a Cobra pilot. I'm a Chinook pilot. I'm a Black Hawk pilot. Well, we talked about it already, how important that element is. You got to be a cop.
Right.
You might be the best pilot on the planet, but if you don't understand what's going on down there, you're not as beneficial to us. But that comes up regularly, and it just shows you that we did, just like what you said. We got it in a different way. We didn't write a check, maybe, but we hung it out to dry, and where we were, risking everything and loving it. By the way, I mean, we all did. And now we're there. So I love that you brought that up because we've all heard that. Oh yeah, you didn't have to pay anything. Well, hold on a minute.
Right.
We put hands on people that nobody wants to touch.
Yeah, that's right.
Some of my best times in my career here have been running a patrol car out on the street.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Hair on fire, doing stuff that you look back and you're like, oh, but for the grace of God.
Exactly.
We got to do some pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah.
Without body cameras.
Yeah.
And again, I feel weird saying it was a different time, but it was.
It certainly was.
Sure.
It certainly was. There's no getting around that. And it's just, that job is special. Being a patrol officer in an urban, anywhere, but certainly in an urban setting, there's nothing else like that.
It should be the best, most sought-after job on a department.
Yeah.
It is truly the backbone, and those guys are out there putting in the work and, like you said, risking it all.
Oh, yeah.
And in different ways today than what we were scared of when we came on.
Yeah. That's a good point. The risk is different. People look at it and go, wow, you're dodging bullets or getting scrutinized about every syllable. I'd rather dodge bullets.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I'd rather dodge bullets 24/7 than get scrutinized about every syllable that comes out of my mouth or, oh, you rolled your eyes at that person or, all this nonsense and being scrutinized and second-guessed and 20/20 hindsight to an extreme. It's harder than ever for these young officers.
I remember talking to guys that were cops in the 70s, and they were, these were the old guys when I came on, and they're like, you don't understand.
Yeah.
All the stuff you're doing now and all the stuff, even pre-Miranda, because, Ernesto Miranda's, that's a Phoenix case.
Yes, it is.
Pre all that stuff. And, now I've gotten to the point where I'm looking at some of these young officers that are coming on the street. And I'm like, wow, it's changed.
Yeah.
The stuff that you guys are really worried about now is in addition to all the other hazards that come with the job.
It's daunting.
I think a lot of that though plays right into the missions that we've started flying in the recent years, because a lot more of it's, if it's not on video, it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll record everything from the airplane. If we need a more standoff approach and we're going to let bad guy run around, cool down before we jump out of the woodwork and take him into custody. Okay. Yeah. We'll put aircraft overhead and we'll give you all the time in the world to reduce as much risk as you want to and hit that person with everything you have to eliminate there being a confrontation. So the department shifted to that. We, both on the helicopter and airplane side, were like, how can we help? All right, we're going to change how we do things, how we record, and how we take this tiered approach. And I'll tell you, just from our bureau perspective, it's absolutely changed the way that we apprehend people.
Sure.
And we share that model with other agencies where it's like, hey, if your department doesn't want to go, guns a-blazing, chasing guys through red lights, it's doable. Check out what we're doing over here.
We've become an essential part of the risk mitigation for the city
Sure.
itself.
Yeah.
We talked to Chris about that yesterday too, about the SWAT involvement and the special units that you have that deal with pursuits and it was fascinating. And that's not everywhere.
You want to hear a cool story about how everything comes full circle? Chris was involved in an officer-involved shooting on the SWAT team. Brent was the camera operator. And if it wasn't for Brent shooting video of the guy with the gun, it could have gone completely different. Yeah. And he still had to go through his department workup of all those things. But Brent shot a really damn good video on the IR of this dude getting out after doing an armed robbery, getting out with a gun and running towards occupied structures and all of that stuff.
Wow.
So it's one of those things where, we've seen specific instances either with our eyes or video where it saves officers.
Absolutely.
Yep.
All the time.
Yep.
Give us a thumbnail, the quick rundown thumbnail before we get into your personal backgrounds of the city of Phoenix and the Phoenix Police Department. Size, square miles, stations. Give us a Reader's Digest version of that.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of the Hangar Z Podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories that promote the personnel and equipment behind the missions in public safety aviation. Lastly, stand by for a message after a word from our sponsors. Cheers.
Thank you to our sponsor, CNC Technologies. CNC Technologies, serving law enforcement, government, and military markets with tailored mission solutions, system training, and live 24/7 support with CNC.live platform. Explore more at cnctechnologies.com. Thank you to our sponsor, Shotover. Shotover Systems is the leading developer and manufacturer of high-performance gyro-stabilized cameras with advanced real-time AR mapping and mission management, all backed by unparalleled custom training and support. Now offering the M2 multi-sensor system, sole 6-axis EO/IR platform with 4K Ultra HD color and infrared technology. Ideal for law enforcement and defense. Offered with real-time AR overlays to quickly identify streets, weather, and traffic. Automated license plate recognition, 24 megapixel digital photographs, and automated steering and tracking.
Thank you to our sponsor, Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 160-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
Thank you for joining us on the Hangar Z Podcast. We really enjoyed our time with everyone at Phoenix Air Support. They are a first-class operation with some unique approaches to accomplish the mission. Many thanks to Glenn and Scott for taking the time to join us. Make sure to check out the Vertical Valor ABSCON edition for articles and photos from our visit in Phoenix. You also will not want to miss the incredible video content on Vertical Magazine's YouTube channel. Brent Bundy and Lloyd Horgan are the best in the business, and they work tirelessly to get the perfect shots. Their work is just amazing. Don't miss that. Don't forget, there is much more to come in this tour from Texas DPS, Las Vegas Metro Police Department, and the San Diego Police Department. Thank you again to Airbus and Massif Flight Suits for the support in making the Blades of Valor Road Tour possible. Stay safe, and we'll catch you next time on the Hangar Z Podcast.